What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid, and I know it's been a good while since we discussed this topic. However, since the last time we did, there's been a few things that have happened, okay? And I know when it comes to the Final Fantasy IX Remake, there is typically three camps of people. The ones that are very, very hopeful for it and are trusting in, the news, the rumors, the leaks, and the so on and so forth, and just basically looking at all the evidence available. Two, those who are basically like, nah, it doesn't exist, whatever, move on. And three, those who are hoping, but also don't really want it to turn out like the 7 Remake. So, no matter where you are in this category, no matter where you fall, let's at least talk about some of the past evidence before we talk about the newer stuff, just as a little refresher. Okay, so obviously the FF9 remake originally started back in 2021 September when Nvidia had a major data breach with a leak of a whole list of games that they were developing support for. Now, when this leak originally happened, nobody really ever believed it because some of the games on there were absolutely batshit insane. Nobody really would have ever expected them to be a thing. But then as time went on, more and more games from this list were announced. They were announced, they were released, which started to give some credibility to it. Even Kingdom Hearts 4 was on this list, which nobody believed, because it hadn't been that long since Kingdom Hearts 3 had released, and of course Kingdom Hearts games have a massive gap between them. But then, lo and behold, Kingdom Hearts 4 got announced after that. So we can now basically look back on that list, and a good 95% of the games that were on there have either been announced, released, or confirmed, but then development was stopped. There are only a few titles from that original list that we have not heard anything about yet, and Final Fantasy IX Remake is one of them. Since then, though, we also had the FF9 animated series announced in 2022. Now, this one it sort of disappears, appears. I know there was an advanced screening for, like invitees only last year in 2023, but since then, we've not really heard anything else about it. Whether it's shelved or not, I don't know. It's like I've not been able to find any more information out about that. The last thing for it was, the advanced screening last year. But then also on top of that, we've had FF9 vinyls released. We've had new FF9 action dolls released. New FF9 Bring Arts figures. We've also had, leaks from industry insiders previously as well, also discussing the development of it and confirming the development. Obviously, leaks you have to take with a grain of salt. So again, I'm not really going to, properly highlight those anymore. But one thing to note is just all this evidence over the last few years, and obviously there's tons of other things that I've not recounted in this video, just because they're sort of smaller, and, you have to have a big bulk of them to really understand the sort of the likelihood, if that makes sense. And obviously I don't want to have this video being 40 minutes long, so we're just gonna skip that. But if you want to look at all the evidence over the last few years, I do have like 3 or 4 videos relating to the remake on the channel. Feel free to go ahead and take a look at them. But something recently has happened as well. Now, obviously, Final Fantasy XIV, huge MMO. I'm sure everybody knows about it. Well, on the 23rd of March, Yoshi P, so Naoki Yoshida, actually, during the dawntrail announcement and stuff, where he showed off, well, not the announcement, but, like a preview and so on and so forth, like the release date announcement, he showed off a bunch of stuff, like having an arc mount in-game, a wind-up dagger minion, a pre-order Zidane minion, along with lots of other FF9 themes being prevalent in the trailers as well. Now, that in and of itself isn't what we're going to talk about here, okay? What we're going to talk about is specifically Yoshi P's comments that he made, because he actually brought this up, okay? He specifically said, and I quote, You may have noticed a lot of Final Fantasy IX references here. He then smirked, adding on, but the reason is a secret. Now, Yoshi P is known as being a major tease. Okay, he does this all the time where he's hinting about something coming. Now, any other developer, and this would have just been, you know, a little tongue-in-cheek humor maybe. Yoshi P, on the other hand, yeah, that's a little more questionable, knowing just knowing what he's like. And I'm sure a lot of the long-time FF14 players will also agree with me on that one. But that in and of itself, okay, is not really all that huge. However, combine it with one other thing, and then it starts to really get a little bit more interesting, okay? So, we are in 2024 right now, yeah? So, this year, you know, we have, well, we've had FF7 Rebirth release earlier on in the year, and then, of course, we're getting Dawntrail in a few months as well. So that alone is going to really tide over Square Enix's, you know, fiscal year, essentially. That's going to really up their quarterly profits. Next year, however, currently, there's nothing announced, so who knows? Obviously, they have to bring games out each quarter just to try and up their profits, ideally. However, there's one other thing about next year that's also really, really important. 2025 is the 25th anniversary. Okay, so 2025 is the 25th anniversary for Final Fantasy IX. Now, what better way to celebrate the anniversary than maybe with a remake? Now, to be clear, I don't think it's going to get the same treatment as Final Fantasy VII did. You know, I really don't think it's going to get that level of effort. I reckon it's sort of going to be between FF7 and what they did with FF8. I think it's just going to be a graphical overhaul, new menus, new sprites, ideally some new backgrounds, but probably more going to be AI focused. But again, we'll just have to see on that one, you know. But me personally, so I've been saying this, you know, since 2021. You know, I'm hopeful. Do I believe it? Honestly, yes. Yes, I do. Why? Because there's so much overwhelming evidence, you know? They went years and years and years, and when I say years, I mean like 10 years plus, but they just did nothing with FF9. And then all of a sudden, around the leak time, we started getting all this FF9 stuff, almost as if they were trying to gauge interest. You know what I mean? And then obviously, because the interest was so high, they started to release more and more and more and more. So it's one of them really iffy things, you know? It's like, I believe, I want to believe, I'm hopeful. And obviously with the 25th anniversary coming up next year, and Yoshi P being the biggest troll developer known to mankind, it's definitely... It's hard to say, you know, it's hard to say. He could be referencing something super important in Dawntrail that is very heavily FF9 themed, or he could actually be hinting about an actual FF9 remake or remaster. Because obviously, he's gone on record before saying he doesn't want to run an entirely new development after Final Fantasy 16 because he just doesn't have the time for it while maintaining Final Fantasy 14. But he would be open to more, like, smaller projects, or he would still be open to the talks for future Final Fantasies, depending on what happens. So, is he going to be in charge of it? Who knows? We're gonna have to wait and see. Obviously, this year is still early on. We still have a ton more events lined up for the rest of the year where there could be an announcement for it, but we'll have to wait and see. And of course, I want to know what you guys think right now. Obviously, I mentioned the 3 groups earlier on. Where did you start? Did you start in the not believing it, you know, way back in 2021? And then as time's gone on, all the, you know, the rest of the things all added up and making you really question things? Or do you still not believe it, and so on and so forth? Let me know what camp you are in. But that's going to be it for this video, guys. I hope you've enjoyed, and I hope you're looking forward to it like I am. As always, though, everybody, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.